Most firms survive, the best ones scale. Welcome to the Managing Partners Podcast, where law firm leaders learn to think bigger. I'm Kevin Daisey. Let's jump in. All right. We're recording. Chad, I want you to tell us a little story, something that you could share with the audience today in regards to our topic. We're going to be talking about public speaking for trial attorneys specifically. Maybe share a little story that, is an aha moment, something impactful that you'd like to share.
There's a little kid. He's in a church filled with people. There's a contest where in a small town, everybody has to share what the legacy of Dr. King was or is. The church has about 400 people in it, but it's a small country church, the kind of church where you can hear the doors just creak, right? Smells like old Bibles in there, man. And the person announces the contest winner, who's the kid, and the kid has to get up and speak. But the kid decides to do something different. That's go through the front door. Normally you walk up to the podium and speak, right? And if you're, Southern or Baptist or whatever, that's kind of a sacred place, right? You're from Texas, so you know. But instead of walking up the normal way, the kid decides to go around the back of the church, wait for the person to announce, and then walk through the door. All right. It's not an aha moment, but it's a lesson in communication. That sometimes the entrance itself is more powerful than what's actually being said. The audience's faces are fixed on the podium, on high, if you want to call it that. But the kid comes from among the people and begins to deliver his speech. And that kid was me. And so that was one of the first lessons in the element of surprise that I think works for us as plaintiffs lawyers, that I learned very, very, very early on. And it's effective, but it can't be so wild that it doesn't fit the norm or the expectation of the subject matter or the crowd.
That's awesome, man. I love that story. Well, I'm actually from Virginia. Been to Texas a few times.
Texas is our sister state in Georgia. So I just wanted to make you from Texas.
Hey, it's your story. Anything could be possible, right? So, but I'm from Virginia, but grew up in a Baptist church in a real small town. So everything you were saying was pretty spot on there. So I appreciate you sharing that story. That's quite amazing. Yeah, Chad's got some cool stories. Everyone here. So as you're listening in, you want to take a moment to introduce Chad. Actually, you met Chad in Vegas at the Mass Torts Made Perfect. Walking through the halls, I was leaving the conference area, going back to eat lunch or something. I'm not sure. And yeah, he stopped me and said, "Hey, you're Kevin with the Managing Partners Podcast." And we sat there and talked for quite a little while. And of course, we reconnected, and I said, "I got to get you on the show." And Chad's a super nice guy. He's talented. He's smart. He's got some cool stuff to share with us today here. But Chad, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, man. I'm a fan. I saw you prepare to shake hands and kiss babies and do the Howard Dean "Pia" at the end of it. So we connected, and I'm glad that I bumped into you, and it's really an honor to be on your show.
Yeah. So happy to have you. It's all about the guest, and it's just so fun to record these and learn and pick up new things. Like you just give me something I never thought about before, and I like trying to increase my speaking on stage opportunities. And so you always want to be on point. You want to show up. You want to practice. You want to, you don't want to be nervous. And, you're always kind of thinking through like, what's this going to be like? And am I prepared for it? So learning some of this stuff is very important, and practicing and understanding. And again, me and Chad talked the other day just to kind of prepare for a topic here. And, he was throwing out all kinds of good stuff. I was like, man, I wish we just recorded that chat. Would have been great. So, but I want to hear your story first. You're an attorney down in Georgia, and to tell us how you became an attorney and your story there.
Yeah. So at a very young age, my parents threw me out to the wolves and made me give speeches. So when most kids were playing basketball, and I played basketball, football, sports, they made me learn speeches by heart. write speeches, go to the library and study figures like Dr. King and JFK, Malcolm X, Bill Clinton, even at the time, and actually deliver speeches for practically every group you can think of. Starting around the age of 10, I gave my first speech in front of 100 people or more. And so those speeches were Just Say No speeches, they were Lions Club speeches, they were MLK speeches, they were there was something called it's a Christian club. I'm forgetting it now. I almost called it, but I'm not sure if it's still in first priority. First priority speeches, rally. They were every kind of speech you could think of, right? There was even a speech about the importance of Latin and Roman figures. But early, they made me get out and start doing this because they'd identified this skill. And so by the time I was 18, by my estimation, I'd given over 100 speeches to crowds of 100 people or more, which is a lot for a kid, beginning with that number of folks at age 10. So I learned this stuff by rapid fire. I learned it through iteration. I learned it through seeing other people do it. I learned it through being evaluated. And after a while, I looked up and I had been doing it for, you know, 15, 20 years because I started so young. I'm not an old guy yet. So I said, hey, why don't we just talk to trial lawyers about this stuff, which is pretty important to what we do.
I mean, just insane. I mean, my kids, my daughter's 11, my son's almost 14. They would be petrified if they had to get up in front of 2 people, and, at this point my daughter actually got a student of the month for her elementary school
Cool.
the other day, and I went there and, all the parents are there that their kids got it, and they gotta go up on stage, and they read off a thing about them. And she was like, "I never wanna get that again. Like, I don't wanna have to go up on stage to get my award." I was like, "You're crazy." But, yeah, I mean, most kids these days and think about you when you're 10. I know for me in church, you get up there and you have to learn Bible verses and you got to get up there with 4 other kids and yeah, 100 people in the church, it's foreign to you for sure.
It is. And the church, from a lot of folks down south is like the primary training ground for a lot of public speaking. In my dad's generation, they had something called BTU, Bible Training Unit or something. And your kids would get up and learn these verses and speeches, Easter speeches, Christmas speeches. That died down and it changed and took various forms. But now, we're not seeing as much of that, at least in the traditional religious form. And so we've got to be creative about training up trial lawyers and leaders to get on their feet and do this pretty early.
Yeah. So, just love to hear, your perspective as we get diving into it. But, obviously I was telling Chad this, like most people assume all lawyers are up in front of a court all day talking to a bunch of people and the whole, TV kind of scene style. I know a lot of lawyers that are like introverts that don't go to trial or court at all. And that's just not what they do. And so, but for trial lawyers, specifically, you know, um, getting better at that and improving their craft or if they're coming straight out of school or maybe starting their own firm, interested to see like, cause Chad's really figured this stuff out and, and is here to help guide you guys through that. So I think, interested to learn more about some of the the tactics and the tips and things like that. So, and I'll just, let you take the floor and kind of dive into it, to be honest with you. So,
Yeah. So and by the way, we prepared a handout. If you want it, we can mail you a digital infographic with all that stuff. Just a few quick
yeah,
pointers.
ask me for that. I'll get that from his team. And so we'll try to get a copy or a link or something up. But if you need that, you can message me if this is on LinkedIn or YouTube or email me and I'll make sure you get a copy. Today's episode is brought to you by Answering Legal. Now, I just switched my company, Array Digital, over to Answering Legal, and it's made my life a whole lot easier. If I can't get to the phone, their 24/7 virtual receptionists take the call and take them through a full intake process, so we never miss new business again. Now, Answering Legal has been at this for more than a decade, and they specialize in answering phone calls for law firms like yours. They even have a brand new, easy-to-use app, and they integrate with all the top legal softwares and platforms. So, for my listeners today, we actually have a special deal of a 400-minute free trial offer of Answering Legal services that you can try out by going to answeringlegal.com/array. You can also call 631-437-4803 and use special code Daisey. That's my last name, SEY. Go check them out, and let's get back to the show.
But one of the things that a lot of folks miss is, public speaking happens all the time. And it happens when we talk to our spouses. It happens when we talk to our clients. It happens when we negotiate a traffic ticket with a cop or the lack thereof. It happens when we go to the store. And we have an audience that is a continual, revolving, changing space, right? And we're always doing it. It's just when the context changes that we get nervous, right? And we know inherently that we adapt what we say to who we say it to, right? In part because the audience dictates the message and also the messenger sometimes, right? Our kids know this best. If we say, don't do this as dads, maybe our daughters or sons go over to mom and they say, hey, look, daddy said this, right? Mom might be in the other room, but that's an example of a change of audience to deliver an effective outcome. So I don't want us to think about public speaking in this formalistic way. You're already doing it. And so the rule number one is you got to know your audience. You got to know your audience, right? I mean, there's a fundamental difference to talking to a judge about emotion versus talking to a crowd of students about what the law is. One is the expectations are different. The other is the language and the common ground that you establish to build a connection is different. And the other is some people are turned off by different body language, which brings me to my next point. That is that body language is the chief form of communication, right? I'm sitting here talking to you about something innocuous, right? But if I start doing all this, right, people are like, man, this guy, why is he so zealous or angry or aggressive, right? But if I just say something like this, right, now I'm learning, although I'm not. And so how we deliver the speech is embedded with meaning. And then third, we have to think very carefully about what we say first, what we say last, and what we sandwich in the middle. That's primacy and recency. And plenty of trial lawyers know about that, and it is a real thing. These are just three basic things that if you really practice at them, maybe weekly, monthly, I think you'll have much better outcomes as a trial lawyer.
Excellent tips. And, for me, I public good on a stage. I was on a stage recently in Richmond in front of a bunch of law firm administrators. But I usually have a pretty good gap between when I speak. I try to get more speaking gigs when I can, but usually a pretty long gap. So it's kind of like, I got to do this again. I haven't done this in a while. So, I think practicing and as a trial attorney, getting on stages and talking about different things and just frequently getting that practice and those repetitions in there definitely makes you better, less stressed about it or nervous about it. So I think, I used to speak a lot more when I used to be more of like a local focused company. Just get in front of groups and talk about stuff. So I just getting that experience or talking to other law firm owners. A lot of these conferences are like, Mass Torts Made Perfect, having a speaking breakout session, teaching other attorneys different things that you've learned. Just kind of getting those repetitions in, I think can be really helpful too. So it's worked out for me anyway. And then I think I was telling you this, Chad. For me, I don't feel comfortable just like walking up without checking the room. And in my case, obviously, I'm not in front of a judge or a jury. So for me, it's usually a group of maybe lawyers or something like that. But I ask a question. Hey, who in the room is a business attorney versus commercial side or plaintiff side? Um, that's going to change my marketing talk or whatever it's going to be completely, because I'm going to be alienating people if I don't really figure out who's in the room and what kind of message I need to deliver to them. So that's been helpful for me to just straight up and ask and give me a raise of hands, and then it also kind of breaks the ice a little bit and kind of gets you feeling comfortable in my mind.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Now, how would you say, if you're, in the courtroom, you can't really do what I did, but what's a good tip for those listening that just, they're trying to get better. Maybe they're new trial attorneys, maybe they're new business owners. What's a good tip for them?
Well, one thing is when you get in the courtroom, let's say it's voir dire, right? The judge has to have folks walk in, sit in the front row, sit in the next row, sit in the next row, sit in the next row. And as they walk in, let's say it's a single file line that they're in, you get a chance to scope them out, but they're scoping you out too. And so you're communicating to them the same time they're communicating to you, basically doing the same thing, right? So there's almost an equal exchange of information going on. The only difference is there are more of their eyes on you than your eyes are on them. And they're forming bonds and they're sitting beside folks that they may continue to talk to. And leadership and influence is formed as they walk in that room and are familiarizing themselves with the whole situation. The number one thing I think a lawyer can do at that point is to pay attention and scope out the audience, right? Some people are going to have body language that is very reticent. Other folks will have visceral body language. Maybe they roll their eyes.
Mm.
Other folks will just be stoic. Those are the hard ones. Other folks will be smiling, laughing, and giggling with someone. They're forming bonds, right? But you got to read the audience so you can take in the information that they're giving you unconsciously. And then you proceed with your message, right? And so a lot of times the plaintiffs will go first. And in voir dire, for example, they're forming this opinion of what lawyer do I trust? What lawyer do I like is the threshold question. And then this next question is, do I like what he or she is saying? And so when you get up, you got to start with an icebreaker, right? You hear the pie metaphor or analogy. That's great. My pie analogy is sweet potato pie. Yeah, sweet potato. The defense lawyers, you probably heard me use it. And y'all know if you try the case against me, it works, right? And especially in rural towns, it works. Sweet potato pie versus apple pie, right? Who likes apple? Who likes sweet potato? Who knows sweet potato pie? Who's had it? What does it taste like to you, right? And jury selection is about taste, right? So then we have a common bond. And from that common bond, all right, this is a country dude. He's not some, dude in suits, right? I can talk to him. He's like the guy next door. He's got a little southern drawl too. So, all right. So when you deliver that icebreaker, the goal is to form a connection. In summary, though, you want to scope out that crowd, take in information as they're taking information from you. You want to make sure you break the ice. And then in doing so, you want to form a human connection that makes you easier to talk to and more likely to be credible at the beginning.
That's awesome. Hopefully you'll find that helpful. Obviously, hopefully I'm never in that position in a court. I don't think I will be, but
You can call me. You can call me. You'll be all
I'm
right,
calling
man.
Chad if I need that.
You'll be all right.
So I would like to see, trial attorneys listening, but also like to apply this to, okay, how do we flip that to I'm just on stage to give a presentation?
Yeah.
And my version is I literally ask the crowd who they are. But is there a way to maybe you don't get that opportunity? Maybe you're just delivering a speech that you don't interact with the crowd. Maybe that's by design of the event that you're at. So, what's the best way? I mean, to apply that to maybe something more like a speech that you're giving, and you walk on stage and you just boom, you're out there in front of a bunch of people. What kind of tip maybe could you give us on that?
So you brought up a really good strategy earlier. The question. The question can be a rhetorical question where you already know or suggest the answer, or it can be a question that is so open ended and universal that people have to necessarily talk about it, right?
Hmm.
Of course, the answer would serve as kind of a main idea or a backdrop to what you're going into, right? You don't want to say who likes elephants in a speech about tigers, right? So you got to know what question to ask is the point behind that. But if you're not using the question strategy, then you can use the quote strategy, right? If you're not using the quote strategy, you can say something that is an unexpected statement. For example, if you're trying a case, it's a stop sign case. The theme might be stop, look, and listen. Right? They're not expecting you to say that. They're expecting you to say, "How you doing, members of the jury? Thank you for being here." Uh, but when you say stop, look, and listen, it's kind of startling, right? And some lawyers believe in saying that theme first. So you can open up a number of ways. You can use a parable. If you're a religious person, the religious figures, whether it's Muhammad or you know Jesus Christ or Buddha or whomever, they were excellent experts at parables, right? Parables, they command the attention through stories, and they're short enough that you just deliver a point, right? And so they remember the details of the story and the point at the end, and then you get into your substantive matter, right? So you got a lot of devices at your in your toolkit and at your ready to use. You got to practice them so that it comes off natural though, right? If you get up there and you're robotic when you deliver your speech and it's not natural and all your body language is rehearsed, feel like you're posing for a camera, not gonna be delivered, right?
I love the thought of starting with a story. That's really cool. Like just coming right out and just start telling a story.
Yeah, you had me do it, dude.
Yeah, I
I
know.
mean, uh, hey, start with a story, right?
You did exactly that into the church, and I was like literally listening and trying to picture everything you were saying.
Yeah,
So, and that's what you can do. You come on stage and people, yeah, being descriptive, like where you can smell and feel and everything. I think that's an excellent way to come out into it. Which is like, what is this guy going to be talking about? But they're all ears, I bet.
right, right.
Yeah, because they want to know what's the punchline here. Now you got their attention.
Yeah. Now this stuff, it came from years and years of doing it, right? Now my mom was serious about this. Like, no, you're not going outside until say it again. I can still hear her head or her voice and see her angry head bobbing up and down, telling me, but I'm thankful to her and I owe a debt of gratitude. My dad was back, he was a good cop, but he was evaluating too. So it was a joint effort and you got to get out there and practice. You got to have a crowd. It could be your dog. Your dog's not going to evaluate you, right? Your wife will, or your husband will. It could be your kids if your kids are old enough to you know give you constructive feedback. But you got to get in front of somebody, and you got to get in forums, and you got to do it often, and you're going to get better and better and better and better and better.
I mean, I think about it. I think you said it. Forgot how you put it, but if I was, me and you're just talking right now. If I were to say, "Hey, now, Chad, you're talking to me as if you're giving your speech," like you can get nervous with just one person to talk to, or it just changes the whole dynamic, right? Like
Yeah,
I got so if your kids, your wife, whoever, like it'll give you in my opinion, the feeling of really talking in front of people because it's just that switch has been turned. All right, I'm going to sit here and listen to you. Give me your speech. It's just like role playing for sales or anything like that. It's like you
and you can
immediately,
do speak about anything, Kevin. You really can. I
yeah.
mean, if you do this enough, you could tell me, Chad, give me a speech on pick a subject. I give you a speech. You can try it. I can do it now. But that's how comfortable folks will get. But you got to get your reps in and you build your muscle and you got to prepare. There's no excuse. There's no skill level that doesn't require preparation. But you get to a level where you can adjust relatively more rapidly in the moment.
I just think, having this capability, this, this training or whatever is so valuable. I mean, to anyone listening, if you're a business owner, if you're not a business owner, it doesn't matter. But it's just having the ability to deliver and to get in front of folks, and to give your message or tell your story, whatever it may be, or if you have a large team, employees, whatever, just it's so powerful. And I was telling Chad this, I can't remember the name of the book, but it was a book where there was an exercise in the book, and it's basically just taking a whole week, figuring out all the things you did in a week, and then categorizing them. With $10 an hour work, work you would pay someone $10 an hour for. $100 an hour work, probably the bulk of your work that you might be doing, hopefully. And then $1,000 an hour work, and then $10,000 an hour work. So it's like the point was get rid of all the $10 an hour stuff, limit the $100 an hour stuff if possible, and how much $1,000 work can you do per day? One time a day, 1 hour a day, can you do some $1,000 work? And like figuring out what that is, right? That could be doing a podcast, right? Just like this. But what I put in the $10,000 category was only one thing really, and that was being on a stage, public speaking. There's nothing really that beats that. If you can get on stage in front of a bunch of people, it's probably the best thing you can do for yourself, for your business, for your confidence. There's so many good things that can come out of it. So connections, people in the room. So I just think it's still the most important thing you can do, and to get good at this and to learn it and to listen to people like Chad and how he's figured it out, I think super important. So, and if you're
100%, man.
yeah, and if you're an introvert, I know introverts that have flipped and they can do their thing and they can get on stage and talk to people. They'll still say they're an introvert, and it's not natural for them. But I've seen them do it and get good at it. So
Anybody can. It's not this mystic, magical exercise. We do it all day, every day. We just have to take away the mysticism around it and do it more often. We find ourselves doing it better and better and better because our confidence and skill level both rise at the same time.
yeah, uh, yeah, maybe you think you're an introvert. Maybe it's just because you've never had the practice. You've never been exposed to it. You've never gotten better at it. And you'd be maybe surprised if you might enjoy talking to people more and getting in front of people more if you if you do it more
Yeah.
often.
You might. You
Yeah,
might.
yeah. Chad might not have been born that way, but his parents said, "This is what you're going to do."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
100%, man.
if they didn't do that, we might not be talking to Chad right now. So
Maybe not.
I can hear your mom talking right now,
Yeah.
with
I don't
a
think she was talking. She's more like she wasn't quite screaming, but it was an octave or two, you know, beneath that. But those hard, firm mandates really help me every day today.
that's huge. Yeah. Well, that's a good lesson for anyone that's got kids and
Start them
myself.
early.
You
Start
know.
them early.
Yeah.
It was my dad's idea, but my mom was the person who executed it.
She's the executioner.
She was the executioner.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm thinking about my kids right now. I'm like, they they don't do well with getting in front of a bunch of people. So, may have to throw them to the wolves. Get 'em.
Yeah, do it. You'll be
I
happy with the result.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. I love it. Well, Chad, what's the best way for folks to learn more about you? And obviously, you're super passionate about public speaking and helping trial lawyers, and you're going around to the conferences. Obviously, if you get to bump into him and see him in person. But what's the best way for folks to contact you, connect with you? Is there a particular way that you prefer?
Yeah, well, you can always reach out to info@mance-law.com. Um, I speak at a lot of these events, National Trial Lawyers Summit, when invited, MTMP, when invited, TBI Med Legal. These are just a few. So we'll probably connect there. And if I'm not speaking, like you and I bumped into each other, we'll just probably see each other. So definitely reach out. I'd love to hear and learn from everybody that I connect with. Don't think that I'm the expert. You know, you might have something to share with me, right? And then of course you can reach out. Our information is behind me on our website. You can dial our firm number, all that. If you want to learn about me, that's on the website about me. And so it's really, I'm just a normal lawyer like you, if you're a lawyer, a normal business person like you, if you own a business. Don't think of me in this high and mighty way. And I'm here to help lawyers. I'm here to help disseminate information and to help promote the profession. That's an important thing to me. And so the more of us win and do things the right way, I think the better off we'll be, because there are a lot of forces that, only believe that money, power, and influence are the controlling factors. And those forces are growing. And we got to have good lawyers doing great things with the right focus and value system winning. And that's why I'm here.
And I love it. It's so many good lawyers out there, and I'm just excited to have so many of them on the show here and learning from them and clients of mine and friends of mine. So I'm happy to add Chad to the list of those folks and out there doing good stuff for people that need help, that are in a bad situation. So, Chad, I appreciate you what you're doing and in the community, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. And everyone, please connect with Chad. He's an open book. If you need to connect with him directly for some reason, don't know how, reach me out to me and I'll do that. And then he did have I guess more like a downloadable. If you need a copy, want that, we'll share that out and get that in front of you. So
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for what you're doing. Your podcast, I'm a fan, of course. I think you're putting out great information across spectrums. I think you're making an immediate impact in a scalable way. And I think that you're setting a trend, right? And there are a lot of folks that are going to try to replicate what you're doing. And that shows that you're a real leader, right? I mean, when you have folks that want to follow and do what you've done, you are leading the way to something impactful. And so I want to thank you for putting your message out publicly and putting yourself out there publicly and putting Array Digital out there publicly and making an impact, because in all 50 states and then some, you got lawyers watching you, I'm sure. And so keep doing the good work, man. I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you.
I really appreciate that. It's been quite a journey and, a lot of fun. And, as a non-lawyer, in this space, I soak up a lot and learn how to better run my business and, take care of my team and employees. And the more we can learn about what you all do and how you do it, and it just helps me along the way. So I get a lot from this other than just people knowing who I am and stuff like. So we try to share real stuff and bring on folks like you to cover topics that we just don't know much about, and hopefully it helps the lawyer out there. So I appreciate that. Not stopping, and we're gonna just take it to the next level. So I'm excited for some new things. Actually, we have the mastermind managing partners mastermind will be starting here soon. A kind of a play off the podcast, and got some awesome lawyers already signed up and excited to roll that out. So I'll be talking about that more soon. But Chad, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. And everyone, please connect with him. And appreciate the kind words. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in from all over the place and continue to watch the show. And just appreciate all of you. We'll see you soon. See you on the next episode.